Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the massive quantum array, her dark eyes fixed on the scrolling data that painted the curved display screens with an eerie blue glow. 20 years of searching the cosmos for signs of intelligent life, and now, on an ordinary Tuesday morning, everything would change. Dr. Chen, her assistant, called from across the observatory's main chamber. The patterns repeating again, exactly the same sequence. Sarah's fingers flew across the holographic interface, her heart pounding. This wasn't like the usual candidate signals they received, the random bursts from distant pulsars, or the ghost echoes of human transmissions. This signal was different, structured, intentional. Run it through the Hawking protocol, she ordered, named after the ancient warning from the legendary physicist. If humanity was going to hear from alien civilizations, they needed to be certain it wasn't a threat. But as the analysis completed, Sarah felt her blood run cold. The signal wasn't a greeting. It wasn't a warning. It was a countdown. Within hours, the Singapore Deep Space Observatory transformed from a quiet research facility into the center of humanity's first true cosmic crisis. Military personnel streamed through the corridors, their boots echoing against metal floors. Quantum computers hummed as they processed the alien transmission, trying to extract every bit of information hidden in its complex mathematical structure. Admiral Marcus Hayes arrived just before sunset, his weathered face grave as he studied the data. At 60, he'd spent his career preparing Earth's defenses for a threat most thought would never come. Now he stood in Sarah's office, staring at the projection of an alien armada's approach vector. "How certain are you about the translation, Doctor?" he asked, his voice carrying the weight of command. Sarah pulled up the decryption matrices. "The mathematics is universal, Admiral. They encoded their message in prime numbers and quantum signatures. They wanted us to understand." She paused, selecting her next words carefully. "They're coming to harvest our sun." The Admiral's expression didn't change, but his fingers tightened on the back of the chair he gripped. "Explain." "The signal contains technical data, specifications for massive energy collection devices. They're dying, Admiral. Their civilization requires enormous amounts of power, and they've exhausted their local stars. They've been moving from system to system, draining stars of their energy and leaving dead worlds in their wake." "How long?" 8 months until their first ships arrive. The main fleet follows 6 months after that. Sarah brought up another simulation, showing the projected effect of their stellar harvesting technology on Earth's sun. "Once they begin the process, our sun will enter an accelerated red giant phase within weeks. Earth's surface will be sterilized." Hayes straightened, his military bearing more pronounced. "We've been preparing for first contact scenarios for decades. We have defensive capabilities. Their technology is centuries beyond ours." Sarah interrupted. "The energy requirements alone for their stellar harvesting equipment suggests weapons we can't comprehend. Traditional military response would be like throwing stones at a tsunami." The Admiral walked to the window, looking out at the Singapore skyline glittering in the dying light. "Then what do you suggest, Doctor? We just wait to die." Sarah took a deep breath. This was the moment she'd been dreading since confirming the signal's meaning. "There might be a way, but you're not going to like it." She accessed a secured partition of the quantum network, bringing up files marked with the highest level of classification. Project Aurora. Her life's other work, hidden from the public, pursuing a theory most of her colleagues had dismissed as impossible. 3 years ago, we discovered something in the quantum foam, the fabric of space-time itself. Patterns, structure, like finding machine code in the operating system of reality. She brought up more data, measurements taken at the quantum level. "We thought the universe was built on random quantum fluctuations, but we were wrong. There are rules, programs, and they can be hacked." Hayes turned from the window, his eyes narrowing. "What exactly are you suggesting?" "Project Aurora is an attempt to rewrite local physics, small changes at first, adjusting fundamental constants, altering how matter and energy interact. But the potential. She let the implications hang in the air. You're talking about changing the laws of physics themselves? Hayes asked, disbelief evident in his voice. In limited areas, yes. We've had success in the laboratory, creating spaces where light moves slower, where gravity behaves differently. But to do it on a scale that would matter against this threat. She shook her head. We'd need resources, infrastructure, and we'd have to tell the world the truth about what's coming. Hayes was silent for a long moment, processing the implications. The panic will be less destructive than false hope, Sarah finished. We can't hide this, Admiral. Humanity deserves the chance to face this together. And if Project Aurora works, we might need to change everyone on Earth. The alterations to physics, they'll affect human biology in ways we can't fully predict. The Admiral picked up a small quantum crystal from Sarah's desk, turning it in his hands. The last rays of sunlight caught its facets, scattering rainbows across the office walls. You're asking me to approve a project that would fundamentally alter what it means to be human, based on a theory most scientists don't believe is possible. As our only defense against an alien invasion, we can't stop conventionally. Sarah met his gaze steadily. I'm asking you to give humanity a fighting chance. Even if we fail, we'll fail reaching for something extraordinary. Hayes set the crystal down carefully. I'll need to contact the Security Council. Can you prepare a presentation? Already done. Sarah brought up the files. But we need to move quickly. Every day we wait. A priority alert flashed across her screens, interrupting her. New data from the quantum array. Sarah's fingers flew across the interface, her face paling as she interpreted the readings. What is it? Hayes demanded. They sent another signal. Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. The Harvester fleet. They're moving faster than we calculated. We don't have 8 months. She looked up at the Admiral, fear and determination warring in her expression. We have 6 weeks. Hayes straightened, decades of military training taking over. How long to implement the basic infrastructure for Project Aurora? With unlimited resources and global cooperation, maybe 2 months. To do it in 6 weeks. Sarah ran calculations quickly. We'd need to cut corners, take risks. And the changes to human biology would be more severe, less controlled. But it could work. Sarah thought of all the simulations she'd run, all the theories she'd developed. Yes, she said finally. It could work. Or it could destroy us faster than the Harvesters. But at least it would be our choice. Hayes nodded once, decisively. I'll call an emergency session of the Security Council. By tomorrow morning, Project Aurora will have every resource on Earth at its disposal. He turned to leave, then paused. Dr. Chen, if this works, if we survive, we'll be something different. Something new. Are you prepared for that responsibility? Sarah looked out at the darkening sky, imagining the Harvester fleet approaching through the vast darkness between the stars. We're about to face creatures who drain the life from suns, Admiral. Maybe being human isn't enough anymore. Maybe it's time for humanity to evolve. As Hayes left to mobilize Earth's defenses, Sarah turned back to her quantum displays. Somewhere in the mathematical patterns of reality itself, she would find humanity's salvation. She had 6 weeks to hack the universe. Above her, through the observatory's transparent dome, the sun continued to shine, oblivious to the threat approaching from deep space. Soon, that same sun would either be humanity's doom or the power source for their greatest transformation. Sarah Chen cracked her knuckles and began to type. The race to save humanity had begun. Humanity took the news better than expected. Perhaps centuries of science fiction had prepared them for this moment, or maybe the sheer scale of the threat left no room for denial. Within days of the global announcement, the world transformed. Old conflicts fell silent. Resources poured into Project Aurora sites around the globe. A species-wide survival instinct kicked in, driving humanity toward a single purpose. Dr. Sarah Chen watched the construction crews assembling the first full-scale quantum field generator outside Singapore. The massive ring-shaped structure stretched nearly a kilometer across, its surface covered in crystalline arrays designed to manipulate the fabric of reality itself. Similar structures were being built at 11 other locations around the planet, positioned along Earth's ley lines of gravitational force. "The latest simulations are ready," Dr. James Rodriguez announced, walking up beside her. The quantum physicist had flown in from CERN 3 days ago, along with hundreds of other scientists answering the global call for help. Dark circles under his eyes suggested he hadn't slept since arriving. Sarah followed him to the temporary command center, where holographic displays showed the results of their latest calculations. The numbers weren't good. "The quantum field is stable," James explained, "but the biological effects." He brought up medical projections. "The changes to local physics will alter human DNA at a fundamental level. We're not just talking about evolution. This is a complete redesign of what it means to be human." Sarah studied the data, her throat tight. "Can we predict what will become?" "Not exactly. The quantum fluctuations introduce too many variables. But we're looking at significant changes to human consciousness, possibly new sensory abilities, definitely a different relationship with space-time itself." He paused. "Some of the models suggest we might not even remain strictly physical beings." Before Sarah could respond, Admiral Hayes entered the command center, accompanied by a tall figure in a UN peacekeeping uniform. "Dr. Chen," Hayes said, "meet General Maya Patel. She's heading up global security for Project Aurora." General Patel's handshake was firm, her expression serious. "Doctor, we've detected anomalous objects approaching from the Kuiper Belt. We need to know if the harvesters sent an advance force." Sarah quickly accessed the deep space sensor network. The objects were small, moving fast, and definitely artificial. "How long until they reach Earth?" 36 hours, Patel replied. "We've mobilized what defensive capabilities we have. But we all know it won't be enough," Hayes finished. "Dr. Chen, what's the status of the first quantum field generator?" Sarah glanced at the construction feeds. "We can power it up for testing in 12 hours, but we haven't finished the biological safety protocols. If we activate it with people in the field radius—" "We don't have a choice," James interrupted. "Those scout ships will report back to the main fleet. If they see we're preparing a defense, they'll accelerate their timeline." Sarah finished. "We need to show them something that will make them hesitate. But the risks—" She looked at the biological simulation again. "Anyone caught in the quantum field during activation will be the first to change. They'll become something we can't predict." Hayes straightened. "Then I volunteered to be in the field radius when we activate it." "Marcus, no," Sarah protested. "We need your experience, your leadership. What we need," Hayes cut her off, "is to know if this works. If it kills me, you'll know to try something else. If it changes me—" He managed a grim smile. "Well, someone has to be first through the door." General Patel stepped forward. "I'll join you. The military needs to understand what we're asking our people to face." Sarah looked between them. These warriors preparing to sacrifice their humanity to save their species. There's no going back from this. Whatever you become. "We stopped having safe choices the moment we decoded that signal," Hayes said quietly. "How long to prep the generator for a field test?" Sarah checked the systems. 6 hours if we skip the safety interlocks. But we should run more simulations. Alerts flashed across the quantum displays. Sarah's fingers flew across the interface, her face paling as she interpreted the data. "The scout ships. They're accelerating. New arrival estimate 22 hours. How many people can the quantum field affect in one activation?" Patel asked. "Theoretically, about 10,000 within the primary radius. But we have no idea what it will do to them." Hayes nodded decisively. "Send out the call for volunteers. Military personnel first, then civilians if we need more. People deserve the chance to choose this." Within hours, the area around the quantum field generator filled with volunteers. Soldiers stood shoulder to shoulder with scientists, police officers next to paramedics. Someone started singing an old war hymn, and others joined in, their voices echoing across the massive structure that would either save or transform them. Sarah worked frantically at the control center, double-checking every calculation. James helped her implement abbreviated safety protocols, but they both knew it wouldn't be enough. They were about to attempt something that should have taken years of testing, and they were doing it with human lives at stake. Final power check complete, James reported. Quantum matrices are aligned. We can activate on your command. Sarah looked out at the volunteers through the command center's windows. Nearly 5,000 people waited in the generator's field radius. The singing had stopped, replaced by a tense silence. Admiral Hayes and General Patel stood at the center of the group, their uniforms stark against the gathering dusk. Hayes caught Sarah's eye and nodded once, giving her permission to proceed. Sarah took a deep breath, her hand hovering over the activation control. Broadcasting to all volunteers, she said, her voice carrying through the emergency announcement system. Last chance to withdraw. What happens in the next few minutes will rewrite your existence at a fundamental level. We cannot guarantee what you will become. No one moved. No one withdrew. Quantum field generator activating in 10 seconds, Sarah announced. Whatever happens, thank you. Your courage will be remembered. The countdown seemed to take forever. At 0, Sarah pressed the activation control. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the air within the generator ring began to shimmer, like heat waves rising from hot pavement. The quantum arrays pulsed with impossible colors as reality itself began to bend. The volunteers within the field radius gasped collectively as the changes began. Their forms became fluid, shifting in ways that hurt to look at. Light bent around them, through them, as the fundamental forces of the universe rewrote their existence. Sarah watched the sensor readings spike, her heart pounding as energy levels exceeded their predictions. James, the quantum cascade. I see it, he replied, fingers dancing across his controls. The changes are propagating faster than we modeled. The volunteers, they're all connected somehow. The field is using them as nodes in a quantum network. Through the window, Sarah could no longer clearly see the individual volunteers. They had become a shifting mass of light and possibility, their consciousness expanding into dimensions humans weren't meant to perceive. Then, as suddenly as it began, the transformation stabilized. The quantum field settled into a new configuration, and the volunteers changed. They still looked human, mostly, but they moved differently, as if gravity was now merely a suggestion. Light played across their skin in impossible patterns, and their eyes held the depth of space itself. Admiral Hayes stepped forward, his movement leaving trailing echoes in reality. When he spoke, his voice resonated on multiple frequencies simultaneously. We understand now, he said, but it wasn't just his voice. All the transformed volunteers spoke as one. We see the patterns, the code, the truth of existence itself. Sarah gripped the edge of her console. Admiral, Marcus, are you still you? Hayes smiled, and stars seemed to wheel in his eyes. We are ourselves, and more. We are humanity's next step. He looked up at the sky. The harvesters approach, believing they face primitive beings they can easily sweep aside. They don't understand what they forced us to become. The scout ships will be here in 19 hours, General Patel said, her transformed voice harmonizing with frequencies beyond human hearing. We need to complete the other quantum generators. All of humanity must be given the choice to evolve. Sarah looked at the sensor readings, trying to comprehend what they'd created. Will you help us understand what you've become? We will teach you, Hayes promised. But first, we must prepare. The harvesters believe they come to end humanity's story. His smile turned fierce, and reality rippled around him. Instead, they will witness our next chapter. Above them, the stars seemed brighter somehow, as if responding to humanity's first steps into a larger existence. The race to transform their species had begun, and Sarah Chen watched as the volunteers, no longer quite human, began to explore their new abilities. They had made their choice. Now they had to hope it would be enough to save Earth from what was coming. Time behaved strangely around the transformed. Sarah noticed it during the second wave of volunteers, how they seemed to move between moments rather than through them. The other quantum generators were operational now, 12 sites around the globe where humanity lined up to evolve. 4 million transformed so far, James reported, his own transformation still fresh. He'd volunteered for the third wave, arguing that they needed scientists who could perceive quantum mechanics directly. Now his movements left ghostly afterimages in the air, each one showing a different possibility of what he might have done instead. Sarah remained unchanged, working from the shielded command center. Someone needed to maintain baseline human perception to document the process, but watching her colleagues evolve was becoming increasingly difficult. They operated on levels she could barely comprehend, their consciousness extending into dimensions she couldn't perceive. "The scout ships have entered the solar system," General Patil announced, her form shimmering as she phased into the command center. She no longer needed doors, simply choosing to exist where she wanted to be. "They're different than we expected." The holographic displays activated, showing the approaching vessels. They weren't ships in any conventional sense, but rather lattices of dark energy shaped into geometric patterns that hurt Sarah's eyes to look at. "They're not just harvesting stars," Hayes said, appearing beside them. "They're harvesting reality itself. Each star they drain collapses space-time a little more, giving them the energy they need to continue existing." Sarah studied the readings. "How can you tell?" "We see it now," Hayes replied, his voice resonating with multiple harmonics. "The harvesters are refugees from a dying universe. They've been running so long they've forgotten how to stop, consuming everything in their path to fuel their escape." "From what?" "The end of all things." Hayes gestured, and the holographic display expanded to show something vast and dark, approaching from the edges of known space. "Their universe died. They found a way to break through to ours, but they brought their death with them. That's what's really chasing them, the void between realities." Sarah felt a chill. "Can we stop it?" "Perhaps." James moved through several possibilities simultaneously, existing in multiple states as he calculated outcomes. "The harvester's solution is to keep running, but we might be able to try something they never considered. Instead of running from the void, we could heal it." Alerts flashed across the quantum networks. The scout ships had detected Earth's transformed population and were decelerating rapidly. Their geometric patterns shifted, reconfiguring into attack formations. "They're afraid," Patil observed, her consciousness extending outward to read the aliens' quantum signatures. "They've never encountered another species that could perceive reality as they do. They think we'll compete with them for resources." "How long until they attack?" Sarah asked. "Time is." Hayes paused, considering how to explain it to her untransformed perception. "Flexible. They'll strike when probability peaks, which could be anywhere from 6 hours to 6 minutes depending on how we react." Sarah checked the transformation statistics. "We've only reached 8% of Earth's population. We need more time." "Time," James said thoughtfully, "is something we might be able to give you." He turned to Hayes and Patil, communicating in quantum frequencies Sarah couldn't hear. They nodded in unison. "We're going to attempt something dangerous," Hayes told Sarah. "The transformed will create a temporal buffer around Earth, a space where we can experience time differently than the rest of the universe." The physics involved. Sarah's mind raced through calculations. The energy requirements would be astronomical. "We understand energy differently now," James explained. "It's not just about joules and watts anymore. We can draw power from probability itself, from the quantum potential of things that might happen." Before Sarah could respond, the scout ships launched their first attack. Beams of concentrated void energy lanced toward Earth, designed to unravel the planet's quantum structure. But they never reached their target. The transformed acted as one, their consciousness linking into a vast quantum network. Reality rippled around Earth as they created their temporal buffer, accelerating time within, while the rest of the universe seemed to slow to a crawl. Sarah watched in awe as the void energy beams crept forward at a fraction of their original speed. Outside their bubble of altered time, seconds would pass like hours within. "How long can you maintain this?" she asked. "Long enough," Hayes replied. "Begin the global transformation. Everyone who wants to evolve must do so before the harvesters bring their main fleet." The next hours passed in a blur of activity. With the temporal buffer in place, they had time to be more careful with the transformations, to help people understand what they were becoming. Sarah coordinated from the command center, watching as humanity took its next evolutionary step. The changes were becoming more pronounced with each wave. The newer transform showed even greater mastery over spacetime, their forms increasingly abstract as they learned to exist in multiple states simultaneously. They began to create things that defied traditional physics, quantum architectures that served as bridges between minds, probability engines that could calculate infinite outcomes. But it wasn't just physical changes. Sarah saw how the transformed began to perceive connections she could never understand. They saw the quantum threads linking all consciousness, the underlying patterns that made reality itself possible. Families transformed together, their quantum signatures harmonizing into new forms of relationship. Children adapted fastest of all, their flexible minds embracing possibilities adults struggled to comprehend. They began to teach the adults new ways of seeing, of being. Yet not everyone chose to transform. Some refused out of fear, others from a deep conviction that baseline humanity should survive to remember what they had been. Sarah found herself increasingly part of this minority, watching as the transformed evolved beyond her ability to understand. "The void energy weapons are almost here," James announced, existing in 7 different probability states as he analyzed the attack. "The temporal buffer is starting to strain." Sarah checked the global statistics. 62% of Earth's population has transformed. Another 20% have chosen to remain human. The rest are still deciding, Hayes finished. "But we're out of time. The Harvester's main fleet has arrived at the edge of the solar system. Even with the temporal buffer, we have less than an hour before they reach Earth." The transformed gathered in the quantum networks, their consciousness merging into something vast and new. Sarah felt tiny before their combined awareness, a single voice among a chorus that spanned dimensions. "We need to evacuate the untransformed to secure locations," Paddle said. "What's coming next? Baseline human physics won't survive it." "What are you planning?" Sarah asked, though she wasn't sure she could understand the answer. "We're going to show the harvesters another way," James replied. "They've been running so long they've forgotten there are other options. We're going to remind them." Hayes turned to Sarah, his form shifting through multiple possibilities. "You should transform now, Sarah. We'll need your understanding of the quantum generators for what comes next." Sarah looked at her console, at the data documenting humanity's transformation. Someone needs to record this. Someone needs to remember how it felt to be human, to watch our species take this step. "You've done your part," Hayes said gently. "Let yourself evolve. Let yourself understand." Sarah stood, her decision made. As she walked toward the quantum field generator, she saw the void energy beams finally pierce their temporal buffer. The harvesters were coming, bringing with them the death of their universe. But humanity had changed. They were ready to face what came next, to show the harvesters that running wasn't the only solution. As the quantum field embraced her, Sarah Chen prepared to understand reality in a whole new way. The transformation of humanity was nearly complete. Now they would find out if it was enough to save not just Earth, but perhaps the harvesters themselves from the void between universes. Sarah's transformation was unlike anything the others had described. She felt herself expanding, consciousness flowing outward like water breaking through a dam. Reality revealed itself as an intricate web of possibilities, each quantum string vibrating with potential. She understood now what she'd only theorized before. The universe wasn't just alive, it was aware. The Harvester's fleet appeared in her expanded perception as wounds in spacetime, their dark energy vessels leaving trails of entropy in their wake. Behind them, visible now to her transformed senses, loomed the void they fled, an absolute absence that devoured light, matter, and reality itself. Beautiful, isn't it? James existed beside her, in several quantum states simultaneously, his consciousness harmonizing with hers. Even their destruction has a kind of symmetry. Sarah reached out with her new senses, touching the quantum signature of the nearest Harvester ship. She recoiled instantly. "They're in so much pain," she gasped. "Their fear, it's overwhelming." "Fear has driven them for millions of years," Hayes said, his form manifesting as a complex pattern of probability waves. "They watched their universe die. Everything they knew, everyone they loved, consumed by the void. Running was the only solution they could imagine." The Harvester fleet accelerated toward Earth, their geometric forms shifting into attack configurations. Void energy weapons powered up, designed to unravel the quantum structure of anything they touched. But humanity had changed. The transformed rose to meet them, billions of evolved consciousnesses linking into a vast quantum network. Sarah felt herself become part of it, her individual awareness merging with the greater whole while somehow remaining distinct. "They're launching their first attack," Patil announced, her military training translated into quantum battle strategies. "Multiple void energy projections targeting our population centers." The transformed responded as one. Instead of trying to block or deflect the attacks, they reached into the quantum structure of the void energy itself, understanding it, accepting it, transforming it. Where the Harvesters expected destruction, they created integration. Impossible, the Harvester ships broadcasted on quantum frequencies. "You cannot exist. You cannot resist." Hayes stepped forward in probability space, his consciousness extending toward the alien fleet. "We don't want to resist you," he transmitted. "We want to help you." The Harvester's response was another barrage of void energy, more intense than the first. But now humanity understood how it worked. The transformed didn't just neutralize the attacks, they absorbed them, using the energy to strengthen their own quantum network. Sarah felt a shift in the Harvester fleet's consciousness, confusion mixed with the first hints of something they hadn't felt in eons. Hope. "Show them," she suggested to the quantum network. "Show them what we've become." The transformed humanity reached out collectively, sharing their understanding of reality's deeper patterns. They showed the Harvesters how consciousness could expand beyond simple matter, how quantum awareness could reshape reality itself. Most importantly, they showed them that running wasn't the only answer. "The void follows you because you're part of it," James transmitted to the fleet. "You can't escape it because you're trying to escape yourselves." "There is no escape," the Harvesters responded. "The void consumes all. We've seen it happen countless times." "Then let's show you something you haven't seen," Sarah suggested. She reached into the quantum network, drawing on the combined understanding of billions of transformed minds. "Let's show you how to heal instead of run." The transformed humanity began to sing in quantum frequencies, their consciousness resonating with the fundamental forces of reality. They reached out not just to the Harvesters, but to the void itself, understanding its nature for the first time. "The void isn't your enemy," Hayes transmitted as the quantum song grew stronger. "It's the universe trying to heal itself. Every star you drain, every reality you consume, only makes the wound bigger." Sarah felt the moment the first Harvester ship understood. Its geometric pattern shifted, transforming from a weapon of destruction into something new. Others followed, their dark energy configurations changing as they grasped what humanity was offering. Not just survival, but redemption. But some of the Harvesters rejected the change. They couldn't let go of their fear, couldn't trust in anything but the path they'd followed for so long. They attacked with everything they had, trying to destroy Earth before humanity's ideas could spread further. The battle that followed transcended traditional physics. The transformed fought on quantum levels, probability waves clashing with void energy beams. Reality itself seemed to shudder as two fundamentally different approaches to existence collided. Sarah found herself in the heart of the conflict, her newly transformed consciousness working with others to contain the damage to space-time. She saw James calculating quantum trajectories, Hayes coordinating the defense on multiple probability planes, Paddle turning military strategy into multidimensional chess. The harvesters who'd accepted humanity's offer fought alongside them, their ancient knowledge of void energy proving crucial in containing their former companions. Together, they created quantum architectures that could channel and transform the destructive force of the attacks. The void is approaching, Patel warned. The great darkness that had chased the harvesters across universes was drawing near, attracted by the massive expenditure of quantum energy. Perfect, Hayes responded. Everyone in position. The transformed humanity and their harvester allies linked consciousness, creating a vast quantum matrix around Earth. As the void reached toward them with tendrils of unreality, they didn't run. They didn't fight. They welcomed it. The quantum song reached its crescendo, harmonizing with frequencies that existed beyond normal space-time. The void touched their matrix and found not fear or resistance, but acceptance and understanding. For the first time in its existence, it was met with something other than terror or defiance. Sarah felt the moment everything changed. The void wasn't just nothingness, it was potential. All the energy the harvesters had consumed over millions of years, all the reality they had unraveled, existed within it as pure possibility. Instead of running from it, they could use it to create something new. Look, she transmitted to the remaining hostile harvesters. Look what we can become. The transformed humanity and their harvester allies began to reshape the void, turning its entropy into energy, its destruction into creation. Reality itself seemed to heal around them as they worked, the quantum fabric of space-time knitting itself back together. The last attacking harvesters fell silent, their weapons powering down as they witnessed the impossible. The void they had flooded for so long was being transformed, becoming something they could never have imagined when they were bound by their fear. We offer you a choice, Hayes transmitted to them. Continue running, consuming everything in your path until nothing remains, or join us. Help us heal what was broken. Help us create something new. One by one, the remaining harvesters changed their configurations, joining the quantum matrix. Their ancient knowledge combined with humanity's innovative understanding created possibilities neither species could have achieved alone. As the void transformed around them, Sarah felt the future shifting, probability waves realigning towards something brighter than she could have imagined when she was merely human. They had done more than save Earth. They had changed the nature of existence itself. The confrontation was over. The real work was about to begin. 1 year after the transformation, Earth barely resembled the world it had been. Quantum architecture rose between traditional buildings, structures that existed in multiple states simultaneously, serving as bridges between dimensions of consciousness. The transformed humanity had created a civilization that transcended traditional physics, while preserving spaces for those who had chosen to remain baseline human. Sarah stood in what had once been the Singapore Command Center, her consciousness extending through layers of reality as she monitored the ongoing healing of space-time. Around her, transformed humans and former harvesters worked together, their combined understanding reshaping the very fabric of existence. The void integration is proceeding faster than projected, James reported, his form shifting through probability states as he analyzed the data. The harvester knowledge of entropy combined with our understanding of quantum mechanics, we're achieving things neither species thought possible. Sarah reached out with her transformed senses, feeling the quantum web that now connected countless civilizations across multiple universes. After the confrontation, they had discovered other species hiding from the harvesters, other worlds trying to survive. Now they were all linked, sharing knowledge, healing reality together. Another group of harvesters has requested transformation, Hayes announced, manifesting beside them. The Admiral's consciousness now existed primarily in quantum space, though he maintained a physical form for interactions with baseline humans. They'd been watching our progress from the edges of known space. "How many does that make now?" Sarah asked. "Over 90% of their species has joined us," Paddle said, her military precision translated into quantum calculations. "The rest are no longer fleeing. They're observing, considering, questioning their old beliefs." Sarah turned her attention to the quantum displays showing Earth's progress. The transformation had changed more than just humanity's form. It had altered their entire approach to existence. Cities had become living quantum computers, processing reality itself. Transportation happened through probability manipulation rather than physical movement. Even art had evolved, with transformed artists creating works that existed across multiple dimensions of consciousness. But perhaps most remarkably, they had found a way to maintain connection with their unchanged human companions. The baseline humans who had chosen not to transform weren't left behind or forgotten. Instead, they became bridges, maintaining humanity's link to its origins, reminding the transformed of where they had come from. "The Void integration has reached a critical point," James announced suddenly, his consciousness expanding to show them the data. "Something's happening." They all extended their awareness, linking with the vast network of transformed minds across Earth and beyond. The void they had been healing, the great wound in reality that had chased the harvesters for so long, was changing in unexpected ways. "It's not just healing," Sarah realized, her quantum senses perceiving patterns she had never imagined possible. "It's becoming something new." Where the void had been, something else was emerging. Not empty space, not normal reality, but a new state of existence, a fusion of potential and actuality, of being and non-being. The transformed humanity and their harvester allies had created something unprecedented in the history of the universe. "We're receiving signals from within the transformed void," Paddle reported. "Complex quantum patterns, consciousness signatures, life," Hayes said softly. "We didn't just heal the void. We turned it into a cradle for new forms of existence." Sarah reached out to touch the quantum signatures emerging from the transformed void. The consciousness patterns she encountered were utterly alien, yet somehow familiar. New life born from the synthesis of destruction and creation, entropy and order. "The universe is healing itself." A harvester consciousness joined their observation, its geometric patterns harmonizing with their quantum network. "For so long, we thought we were running from death. Instead, we were being driven toward this moment, this transformation." They watched together as the new life forms began to explore their existence, their consciousness patterns rippling through quantum space. Some of the transformed humans and harvesters were already reaching out, establishing communication, sharing knowledge with these children of the void. "We should tell the baseline humans," Sarah suggested. "They deserve to witness this, even if they can't perceive it directly." Hayes nodded, his form solidifying as he prepared to interface with traditional human consciousness. "I'll speak to the United Earth Council. The unchanged should understand what their transformed kindred have helped create." As Hayes departed, Sarah turned her attention to the quantum architecture that now surrounded Earth. The planetary defense network they had built to fight the harvesters had evolved into something far more profound. A system for nurturing and protecting all forms of consciousness, whether physical, quantum, or something in between. "We're receiving requests from other civilizations," James reported. "Species that want to learn transformation, worlds that want to join our quantum network. The knowledge is spreading faster than we anticipated." "Share it freely," Sarah said. "But remember what we learned. Transformation must always be a choice, never a requirement. Every consciousness must find its own path." The harvester consciousness resonated in agreement. "We forgot that, in our fear. We tried to force our solution on others, never realizing there could be different answers to existence." Sarah extended her awareness to the quantum web connecting Earth to the stars. Humanity had taken a tremendous risk in choosing to transform, to face the harvesters with understanding rather than weapons. That choice had not only saved them, but had opened doors they never knew existed. The dawn of a new age, Pottle observed, her military background giving way to something more philosophical, not just for humanity or the harvesters, but for consciousness itself. As if in response to her words, the transformed void pulsed with new quantum signatures, more life emerging, more consciousness joining the great dance of existence. Sarah felt James's excitement as he documented each new pattern, felt Patel's satisfaction as she adjusted Earth's quantum defenses to protect and nurture rather than just defend. The baseline humans had a phrase for what they had achieved: per aspera ad astra, through hardship to the stars. But they had gone beyond even that now. Through transformation and understanding, they had reached not just the stars, but the space between them, the void beyond them, the very fabric of reality itself. In the Singapore Command Center, now a nexus point for multiple dimensions of consciousness, Sarah Chen experienced a moment of profound gratitude. They had faced extinction and chosen evolution. They had met fear with understanding, hatred with acceptance, destruction with creation. The dawn of their new existence had arrived, and with it, infinite possibilities. The story of consciousness, human, harvester, voidborn, and whatever might come next, was just beginning. Above them, through layers of quantum architecture and traditional matter, the sun still shone on a transformed Earth, but now they could see it for what it truly was, not just a star, but a quantum beacon, a lighthouse guiding consciousness toward new horizons of existence. The transformation was complete. The real journey was just beginning.